Hey guys, so today we're gonna do the migration from MySQL to the Postgres, which also includes the migration from the MariaDB as example. And the version in this case is not that specific, like I will be doing it in the old, MariaDB 5.5, so super old. The newest one, which is available from the Red Hat 7 official repository. So in terms of distribution, this is CentOS 7 machine, and MariaDB 5.5, and we will be doing migration to the Postgres 12. About the migration itself, like why would you need it and why would somebody want it? Well, more or less we're talking about a Zabbix, right? Still like the same way of the migration is you can apply it on any other database if you need. And the Postgres has become quite popular because of support of TimescaleDB. So timescale database extension of the Postgres was available since 4.2, I believe, when the native partitioning was included inside of Zabbix with the timescale.db support. So you can disable the housekeeper and rely only on the partitioning without any kind of external scripts or procedures or the triggers in case of the Postgres. And since the Zabbix 5.0, also native compression on the history and trends tables is enabled. So let's say instead of having like 500 gigs of the database, you can have 50 gigs, that's it, and only using the compression. But there is a limitation, you must use a timescale.db, and a timescale.db can only be applied on the Postgres, and starting from 11, I believe compression works with Postgres 11, if I'm not wrong. But just keep in mind that if you're doing this on your production, think twice, because the timescale.db support is still experimental from the Zabbix perspective. It works, there are no known bugs at this moment, but remember the support is experimental. And also all the stuff we will be doing here there are multiple ways how you can migrate your database. There are a lot of free, paid, official, non-official utilities how you can do easy migration, but in most cases those don't work. You simply get corrupted, not consistent database in the results. So this was tested by me before recording this video. Only thing, like if you have a super large database like 500 plus gigs or even 1 terabyte, really, like in any matters, test this in the development. Like don't give a first try on the production database, make a full backup, restore it in the development setup, and then try the migration, confirm that everything works for you, and then you can plan to migrate your production database. So before we get started, this is how I install the Postgres. So if you want to, let's say, try it out without if you even don't have a Postgres currently, you can install it from this link. I'll post it in the description of the video. So how to install the Postgres 12 on the CentOS 7. I'm using CentOS 7. Just a couple of commands, not that complicated. I won't cover this in the video because I have a Postgres already pre-installed. MySQL also is up and running in my case. I have a Zabbix database with all the tables. The only thing is, like, it's more or less default database, so default items, default templates, there are no history, so it's very small, and definitely on large database it will take much more time. Zabbix server is also installed here. You can check, I have a Zabbix server 4.0 and it is also running. So Zabbix server is up and running, and we can check the log file, so everything is okay, so the housekeeper is running. So how we are doing the migration, we are doing it with PG Loader, and the PG Loader is a special tool for the Postgres, which allows you to import the data. And what's more important is there are, like, again, multiple ways how you can do the migration. One of them is make full backup on your MySQL, then point the utility on the backup, which will basically convert it to the Postgres format and then import it inside of Postgres, or like super super raw method would be to CSV export from the MySQL database and then the CSV import. This is basically a utility in which you provide a couple of statements and it does all the job. I will go here to the migration. So I have basically two files for now because in my case, migration will be done in two parts. First of all, I will be migrating configuration tables, and there are like 150 of those. And then on the second part, there is a migration of the history data. Simply because, like, even if you have 500 gigs worth of the data in the database, most likely 498 gigs will be for the history and just a little bit for the configuration. But it's very important, so we will start with the config. And how the configuration file for the PG loader looks like, so this is basically copy paste for you. So we're loading the database, and what's important, we don't need to make any configuration backups, any database dumps or whatever else. PG loader will automatically connect to the MySQL from which you want to do migration. So here we specify MySQL, then it is a username and a password where it is located. So my MySQL and Postgres is running on the same host, so on a local host and / Zabbix database. So I will also open a duplicate tab so you can see MySQL, show databases. There is my Zabbix database which I'm going to migrate. What else? Would include no drop, truncate, create no tables, no indexes, no foreign keys, reset sequences, data only. So at this step with this configuration file, we will be copying only the data excluding the tables that match the history and the trends, so excluding all the history tables. And these parameters, this parameter, so workmem and maintenance workmem, depends on the specs of your virtual machine or physical server. So the more memory you have, you can tune these parameters and the migration would go faster. So this would be the example, and I will close it right now. So before actually running the PG loader, we need to prepare the Postgres database, and the Postgres is already up and running. So Postgres is here, and I can open the database itself, and I can open the Postgres. So right now there's no Zabbix database, right? There's only Postgres, template 0, template 1. So I can exit from here, and I need to create Zabbix database in which I will be importing and doing the migration from the MySQL. And to do that, you can just rely on the official documentation from the Zabbix. Also, links will be in the description of the video. So not this one, database creation in a Postgres. So I've already created user, but if you are doing a fresh clean installation, you need to do also this one. So create a user for your Zabbix database, and then create database. Owner will be Zabbix user Unicode from the template 0 and Zabbix. So copy paste this line. Done. Now I can again log into the database and check right now. So I have a Zabbix database, but if I will connect to the Zabbix database, yep. Yeah, so there are no tables at all. It's empty, right? We need to import the schema. Normally how we would do that, if you have done already some installations of the Zabbix, it's usually the user share doc Zabbix server whatsoever, and then schema.sql file. Not in this case, simply because that file basically consists of 3 files, which is schema, data, and images. But we need only schema, and all the data, including the images, will be coming from my MySQL database when I will be doing automatically the migration. So I need only the schema for the Postgres database. To do that, I need the sources. So I need the sources of Zabbix 4.0, simply because my MySQL database is also 4.0 and my Zabbix server is 4.0. How to download it? You can go to zabbix.com, click on the green download button, Zabbix sources, then it's 4.0. Click, copy link address, and wget copy paste to download the sources, so you will get the directory, then extract it, so you will get the folder, then we can go here. Zabbix, I will actually delete this because I made some modifications here for this, and extract ZXVF Zabbix for like this, and right now go inside the directory. So here we need to move to the database folder. In the database we need to move to the Postgres folder, and there we can find data, which we don't need, images, which we don't need, schema, we need it, but again we also need to modify it. If we will open the schema file, so here we can see all the schema, how the tables of the Zabbix are created inside the Postgres, but in the bottom, after all the create table statements, you see there are also alter tables when we are adding the foreign keys and the constraints on all the tables, which for now, for the initial migration step, we don't need. And remember, our configuration file for the PG loader also contains the statement that we won't be loading any constraints for the database. We'll be doing this as a last step. So right now what we need to do in the schema file, we need to delete all alter table lines and leave only the lines for create table. And to do that, we can use a shortcut on the Vim, which I don't remember from my heart, so this it is. Just put a cursor in the first alter table, then it is dot comma $D. So dot comma $D. There we go. And this insert into DB version also goes away. So this is how the file should look like. Our line ends with a semicolon just for like a query, and the last statement is create table DB version. Then we can save it. And what we need to import this file inside our Postgres database with a -u Zabbix, PostgreSQL, Zabbix database. Just instead of the zcat, because we don't have a compressed file, we just need a cat, schema, SQL, and pipe it to PostgreSQL -u Zabbix and Zabbix database. Boom, done. Now we can confirm with su -Postgres, go to the PostgreSQL, connect to the Zabbix, and the items as example. So you see we have items table, and what else we could check, the history, but as you can see we don't have any constraints on these tables. DT, yeah, so there are all the tables of the Zabbix. But they are absolutely empty. Like if we try to select everything from, I don't know, items, select everything from hosts, there are 0 rows, so it's absolutely empty. Now we need to migrate this data from the MySQL inside our Postgres file. Then we need to go back to my migration. And the PG loader is also an RPM, so if you will be doing Postgres installation from documentation, not this one, so the one that I showed you previously, how I install the Postgres, then also the RPM is RPM -QA grep PG loader, so it's just PG loader, and the version in my case it is 3.6.2. And the config file, the config, once again, so loading database from MySQL, which is localhost using a user Zabbix, password Zabbix, and database name is Zabbix. Then inside the PostgreSQL, which also has a username Zabbix with a password Zabbix, and a database also is Zabbix. A couple of parameters, so what we will be doing and what we're not be doing. So we are not creating any indexes or foreign keys. And a bit of memory for our process, and excluding history and the trends. Altering schema, Zabbix renamed to public. So then it should work as PG loader and just location of the config file. So let's give it a try. Click enter. As you see, a couple of warnings, and there we go. total import time 1 second and 8 milliseconds, but that's just because I have basically an empty database just with a sample host, items, templates, media types, and everything that you have when you just install your Zabbix from the scratch. So as you can see, there are some warnings, but it's not relevant at all. So table name, and we can see the list of all the tables plus the errors. So 0. No problems, everything is absolutely fine, all the data is migrated, and we can also see the time required for each table to do the migration. Now we can confirm all of that to, again, going to the Postgres, entering inside the Postgres database, entering inside the Zabbix database, and now we can type once again, select everything from items, just like we did before, and the response was 0. So now, as you can see, all the default items are inside. Right? Cool. So this is done. Next, we should get rid of the history in our way. So the second file, configuration file, is for the data, which basically has the same parameters, also load database from MySQL inside a PostgreSQL, would include no drop, no truncate, and here you need to list all the tables that you want to ignore. So since in the previous step we basically did a migration of all these tables, then now we need to ignore all of them because we will be migrating only history and the trends table. So 5 for the history and 2 for the trends. And yeah, so let's try to run this right now. pgloader, data, and there we go. So just a couple of the history data. So again, it was a clean installation. I don't even remember if the Zabbix server was collecting any data in this case. We also migrated the history, and we can check. There are 15 rows in the trends data, so probably those would be Zabbix internal performance metrics. Let's check. So again, su minus PostgreSQL, connect Zabbix, select everything from history as example, empty, history uint, empty, let's check the trends, empty, and trends uint, there we go, 15 rows with some items, as example item 23271, we can check select name key from items where item ID equals 23271, and it is just let me copy paste again, not like this, and semicolon, select name key from items where item ID, what did I do wrong? Oh, there are too many. Okay, yeah, let me just type again. Select name key from items where item ID equals 23271, semicolon in this case. So yeah, those are internal metrics, Zabbix queue over 10 minutes, and there's the key which collected this trend. So at this point, we migrated all the data from our MySQL database to the PostgreSQL. But that's not it. Again, if we would check exit, let's say go to the MySQL, use Zabbix, show create table items, you see there are many constraints, like 5 in this case. And if we would go back to minus PostgreSQL, connect Zabbix, /d items, there are only indexes. That's it. Nothing else. There are no constraints, and we need to do that, right? We need to add the constraints, and this is a very important point in the process of migration, simply because if, just in case, you forget that you need to do that, and at this point you start to think that, hey, I did the task, and you start your Zabbix server pointed to the Postgres database, it will start. It will work, but the problem is because of the missing constraints, your database will really fast in a couple of minutes break consistency, right? So because of the missing constraints, you will have extra records in some tables that will not be deleted because of the constraint for delete on the cascade. So yeah, then after some time you will start to receive query errors in the Zabbix server log. and it won't be that easy to fix it. So what you need to do in this step, we again need to go to the Zabbix. I will actually, so remember we had Zabbix sources that we downloaded and the one which we extracted. Technically we could use the same that we extracted, but I already modified the schema SQL file. Remember, I deleted all of those alter table statements, but now instead of all the create table statements, we need exactly the alter table statements. So I will delete again the extracted version of the sources and extract it once again. So I have a default schema. Go to the folder, cd to the database, Postgres, and we have a schema. So let's check it again. So this is all that we imported. In the bottom of the file we have all the alter table which we deleted previously. So that is the part which we now need to import in our database where we already did the data migration. You can of course just delete all the extra stuff from here or open it on your Windows machines, but you can just use cat schema SQL file, then grep on the alter, which will filter only all the statements for the alter table, what we need. Everything else was already migrated from the MySQL. And we can do grep alter and pipe it, not pipe it, but point it to the same directory, and let's call it alter table.sql. Done. So right now we have a new file, alter table SQL. Edit it, and inside it we have only all the statements for the alter table. So what we need now is quit from it and cat alter table, pipe it, PostgreSQL, use Zabbix, and Zabbix. Boom. Done. Let's confirm. So minus Postgres. PostgreSQL, connect Zabbix, D plus items. And you see we also have the constraints. Previously we did not, now we have them. So references, these are basically the relations between the tables. So let's say when we delete the hosts in the Zabbix frontend, and we could have an items on the host. So if we delete a host based on these constraints, it means that also items has to be deleted, all that are directly on this host. The value maps, interfaces, which are also in the separate tables in the database, all of that has to be deleted. If we don't have a constraints and we delete a host in the frontend, we delete only the host, and still all the fields, all the relation to that host remains inside the database. That's why, like, sooner or later, most likely sooner, you will experience some problems if you will forget to do that. So that was actually it. And just to confirm that we did everything successfully, what I can do, systemctl stop Zabbix server, and yeah, we can check grep Zabbix. I will actually remove yum remove Zabbix server MySQL. Yes, so it's gone, and yum install Zabbix server PostgreSQL. Yes, so it's installed inside the config file in the etc zabbix server.conf. I need to edit just one parameter, which is a DB password, and in the Postgres I also have a user Zabbix with a password Zabbix. So right quit, and now we can start systemctl start Zabbix server. Check the log file and the var log Zabbix server.log, and you can see the process is started, which is now using the Postgres database, not the MySQL. So we can systemctl stop MariaDB. Stopped, and the Zabbix is still working. We can actually even, like if we check rpm-qa, grep Zabbix, I still have a Zabbix web MySQL, so I will not be able to open my frontend right now with a Postgres database, but I can again yum remove Zabbix web MySQL and yum install Zabbix web PostgreSQL. Yes. Then we need to edit at chttpd confd zabbix.conf file because we need uncom and the time zone, and systemctl start zabbix, not zabbix, start httpd, and then we can go to the front end and let's try to open it. 56101/Zabbix actually should work. Service firewall d stop setting for 0. So this is still trying to connect to the MySQL because in the etc Zabbix web, I think cd zabbix.conf php, which was generated when I first time started my front end, which in the first time initially was in MySQL. It's still here, so I'm not actually prompt to the setup config, which I need to do. So just delete the zabbixconf.php. Then let's try to again reload the page. We get first time configuration wizard. Welcome to the Zabbix 4.0. Next, all the parameters are fine. Next, database type is a Postgres. Host is localhost. Default port, database name Zabbix. Schema is default. And the password is also Zabbix. Next step. Next. Next. Congratulations. And there we go. So this right now is working only on a Postgres. Our MariaDB is turned off. Zabbix server is also working without any errors. So that's it. That was the migration process. Again, be careful. If you're planning to apply it on your production instances, of course, you can do that, but please test before doing something. Don't start like first step on the production without making any backups, because keep in mind the most important fact is that I had empty database. And if you will be having a production database with a lot of history data, a lot of the items, the process itself will be much slower. All the main commands, all the configs for pgloader, like config and data, all these remain the same. Only like if you're migrating from different version, not from 4.0, let's say 4.2, for 4, then check these tables, because 100% like 4.4 will have different tables in the list, so you need to modify the list. And based on the VM hardware specs of your virtual machine, modify this parameter to make the migration faster. And also, if you have like really a lot of history data, instead of migrating all 5 history data tables and plus 2 trends tables at once, you may even want to migrate them separately. So first of all, go history, verify that everything goes fine, then history UINT, then history log string, then trends UINT. Right, so that's about it. Hopefully that this does make some sense. For those who are searching how to migrate a database, hopefully you now be able to do that. Maybe you'll be able to test new TimescaleDB features as a compression and a native partitioning. If you want to have some, I don't know, conversation questions, you can also join our Discord channel. I don't know, it's not like super active, but folks are talking here about Zabbix, and the invitation URL to the Discord is also in the description of this video. So thank you guys again for your time, and see you later. Goodbye.